Will people cough up $1 a year to post on Twitter?
And why are the Australian Federal Police still dabbling in facial recognition without authorization?
Hi there. Welcome back to Vertical Hold Behind the Tech News, the award winning tech podcast where we catch up with Australia's leading tech journalists and commentators to dive into the big stories of the week. I'm Alex Kidman, joined as always by Adam Turner, but not in a dating relationship. Now, Adam, dating service Tinder, and this is why I bring that up, has announced a new service feature where members of your family will be able to vet potential dates before you do.
Ooh,
Now, back when you were dating, I know you've been out of the game for a long while, but back when you were dating, had Tinder existed, how keen would you have been for that kind of feature to exist?
look, I've been out of the dating game for a long time to the point where I'm not even sure if swiping left or swiping right means good. But I always assumed Tinder was for meeting the girls you don't want to take home to meet mum. Am I wrong?
I've also been out of the dating game long enough that I don't know whether or not that's true or not.
Sounds like a bad idea.
What I do know is that this week's guest is someone we definitely swipe right on. It's the one and only
Hang on, is that good or
Bulgarian.
bad? We need to clarify this.
That's a good thing. It's a good
Okay.
thing.
Still, would you be happy for family and friends to set you up online?
Well, I think the important thing to realise here is that as a gay man, I'm using Grinder, whose purpose is, shall we say, a little more direct than Tinder. And mate, there's no way I'm showing my family that.
You could get the opinion of a few friends. Thumbs up,
Yeah.
thumbs down.
What do you think of this guy? Yeah, well,
Yeah,
absolutely. And
Thumbs up on Grinder might mean something else, Adam.
that's true. You pay extra for that.
it's going to be one of those episodes. I can tell. I,
Yeah.
all of these apps are announcing new features. Tinder, because it's the best known, really, is offering this feature, and their research shows that half of the users are showing their mates the pictures and the profiles anyway to decide whether they should swipe right or swipe left. So all they're doing is making that a little easier than they say crowding around one person's phone. Also, it does mean, of course, they're hooking other people into getting the app and maybe using it themselves, which is always a thing. All of these apps need to keep growing, right? This is the Silicon Valley economy. If you're not growing at cancerous speeds and making massive money for the venture capital companies, then you're dead. It is no longer, or it's never been acceptable in these dot-com booms to just have a company that chugs along making solid profits. You've got to be growing the whole time. And people get bored with the apps. Once, you've tried dating, whether it's Tinder or Grinder or Bumble or, any of them, after a while, you're going to feel, I'm not really finding the person I want. Maybe I'll try another app. Which is silly because it's just the same people. Right?
Yeah.
It's just they're all on the apps as well, but they're now unblocked again, and so you're going to see them another time round because you didn't reject them before. Um, and so they need ways to get more money in. I don't know if people are showing them around. Fine, if they're doing it as does mum appeal? Maybe that's a thing that will appeal to some people
A
too.
kink.
But I know it's a cultural thing.
That's
Yeah,
true,
I was going to
actually. I
say,
didn't think of
presumably
that.
that is a more close knit family cultural expectation matter.
Absolutely.
It's gone.
Yeah, there's going to be plenty of people saying, "You're not going out with that boy." You know,
Hmm.
show me the boys you're going out with. I want to know more about him, or vice versa, or whichever combination we're talking about here. So I can see, they got numbers to say this is the thing they want. The thing about Tinder that really amazes me, though, is that they've created yet another level for which they're charging $500
A month.
a month
Is this the
invitation.
date Tom Cruise level of payment?
Well, it is invitation only, they say, and maybe about 1% of their user base will be offered this. But here's the thing, if you do have that level, amongst the features are that you can still DM people even if they haven't swiped right on you first. So the kind of idea is, as it normally, you swipe right on them, they swipe right on you, so you're both interested in each other. Now you can DM.
That makes
This
sense.
feature, yeah. Otherwise, this feature allows someone to DM you even if you haven't swiped right on them first, and it also in their possible match list, because they've got algorithms, they can say yes, this is possibly someone you'd swipe right on. Your photo will be at the top of the grid and also unblurred. So that feature normally shows, here's someone you might be interested in. They're from Sydney. They're 35 years old, and whatever it is. And here's a blurred version of that picture. But if you pay, you'll be unblurred straight
So
away.
it's aimed at creepy rich guys who can't take no for an answer?
I would summarize it much the same way. Yeah,
I was going to say it's Tinder blue tick plus stalker mode.
Yes.
yeah. But for $500 a month. I mean, part of me says if people have that much money to throw at it, fine. It's not going to make them look any more attractive, even though they think it does. At the same time, there are people who get quite obsessed with these apps. And they will always pay whatever feature it is. They'll be on it every day. They'll message every single person that's even remotely of interest. And this then becomes exploitative of them, as well as, quite frankly, as we say, weird and creepy for the people on the receiving end. But there it is. That's Tinder.
Well,
So speaking
speaking
of
of
weird and creepy.
weird,
Yeah, sorry.
creepy, and payments, this week, in fact, when this episode goes out, it will be Twitter's 1 year Muskiversary. We're not sure
Hurrah!
there's
Do, do, do,
too much to
do.
celebrate there, though. And we're going to be talking about Elon Musk's latest interesting plan to charge new Twitter users $1 a year and why that might make sense to him. But first, the Australian Federal Police has once again been caught out using controversial software called PimEyes. And still, Garen, you'll have to forgive me. PimEyes sounds like something that you end up with after you've drunk too much gin, but it's not, is it? What's the
No,
story here?
it is. There's a few of these now. There are companies that collect as many photos as they can off the internet or anywhere else they can get them, and match them to names. And like they can do that by just trawling Facebook or your own website or whatever your social media posts are, and then make those databases available for people to do face matching. Now, if this is done officially, say in Australia by the Australian government, then there will be rules about whether the police forces can actually give it a go, right? Usually it needs to be part of at least some level of authorization before you start searching the database. In
There are
fact, we
checks and
have,
balances, yeah?
yeah,
Basically.
checks. That's the phrase, isn't it? Checks and balances. And we will have that. Well, there's legislation being developed now on a new go at the national Face ID database, and it's going to be made very clear that this is for verifying ID. So you're saying, here's me, and that's my photo. That's me. Can I have my new driver's license? Kind of thing. And there will be really strict limits on the police saying, here's a photo. Who looks close to this? Which is called one to many matching. And it's been made clear at the moment in the legislation that that is not a thing that they'll be able to do. They kind of need, you know, it really has to be pretty serious before anyone can authorize this. Thing is, though, if you've got this Pim Eyes, I can't say it seriously, but it's based in Georgia, which is next to Russia and is also a former Soviet republic. And let's just say that the rules surrounding this might not be as tight. The other thing is that the federal police, they've had four officers, they think, using this without authorization. In fact, until a freedom of information request came out, which is about which IP addresses are accessing this thing from Australia. Because surprise, surprise, there's monitoring on what police look at online and so on. The senior management of the police didn't realise this until senators said, "What's going on here?" And they went, "Well, no, no, we're not using that." And they say, "Yes, yes, you are." Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just a small number of members, and it was for professional development training, and it was, yeah, it was used operationally, but only as like a trial. That's still operational.
Mm,
That's still you still
yeah.
used
Just a
the
little bit.
goddamn thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We just got it a little bit pregnant, and yeah. So this is, as I say, a bit of a problem. I mean, they were caught back in 2020, using Clearview AI, which is again that at least is, I want to say, a legitimate company, um, founded by an Australian. The same sort of idea. Clearview had the habit of not approaching the police forces at the top, but networking with individual police
Yeah.
officers to say, would you like it? Here's a trial account. Here's a free trial for a month. Just play with it, see what you think." And of course that meant they were doing so without any of the, what must happen, I'm sure, the ethical training and the procedural things that go with it. Because we already know about the doing telephone record searches on journalists is meant to be done with a specific kind of warrant, and a couple of police forces have been found not to realise they're meant to do that.
They
So
just
obviously,
forget.
training with techno cyber training within the police forces in Australia is, of course, excellent and the best in the world.
Now, they got called out by the Privacy Commissioner for using Clearview AI. They said it failed to
Yeah.
comply with privacy obligations. After that, why would this happen again? You'd think they would have cracked down on it.
You would think, wouldn't you? I mean, I mean, you ask why. That is the question. Why?
Yeah.
Why again? Um, when an organisation does something and then they do it again and again, the clear answer to me is that as an organisation, they don't care. As an organisation, they presumably are not interested in setting up proper compliance and regulatory frameworks around this. Compliance and governance, it's a thing. The banks don't like doing it, but they do, but they never get it wrong either. The cops never get it wrong. Government procurement never gets it wrong. They're all very keen to make sure their corporate governance is tight as, and therefore I think this is just a weird one-off incident, down to a few bad apples in the barrel.
Hang
He
on, my
says
It's
sarcasm
in
convincing
detector is just
there.
sleep.
Yeah.
spinning out of control here. I'm not actually
Yeah,
sure. I think we've gone full circle here. So you don't
yeah,
think it's just a few bad apples, you think it's a sign that they don't take it seriously.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise
Which is a
they'd fix
problem
it,
when it's
right?
the AFP though, right? These are the kind of people we expect to be taking it seriously.
Well, this is the deal, isn't it? I mean, the nature of policing is that you give people certain powers and guns, and the ability to deprive you of your liberty, etc., etc. And therefore, we expect there to be some, rules and controls about that. You know, that people kick around the idea of a police state. In a police state, of course, there aren't those kind of controls, and the police get what they want, and whatever. Now, we're not in a police state, and anyone who says we are is an idiot, because the very fact we can talk about this means
The
means
fact
we're
no one's
not, right.
kicking
No
down
one's.
our door as we speak means we're probably
Yeah,
not. Yeah.
yeah. It's
Well,
pretty
we're a bit
cool.
out of the
We
way. It's going to take them about 5 minutes to
Sure, I
get
can
here.
hear the helicopters.
Yeah, and anyway, the buzzer on the lift where I'm staying at the moment doesn't work properly, so they won't get us.
We're probably okay.
Yeah, but it does point to a systemic problem because it keeps happening again and again and again. And I kind of get it, because if you're a cop, what's your KPI, your key performance indicator, right? It's catch and crims, right? And prosecutions working, and that's what you're measured on. So that's what they're going to maximize. Now, it does run into limits where if it's just on arrests, fine, just arrest everyone. If it's on successful prosecutions, you have to do that bit to make sure you've got your evidence locked down and your process right. And a defense lawyer can't say, wait, you forgot to read them their rights before making that recording, or you did that without a warrant. None of this is admissible evidence. Um, so that perhaps needs to change. Perhaps the measure needs to be uh, how safe the population feels in their own homes, because that would then stop both the police and the politicians trying to scare us into giving them more powers. They would instead be trying to reassure us that everything's nice and safe and we're doing a great job. Enjoy Australia.
Mm.
It strikes me that this is getting onto the back onto the technology side of this. This is a private company, and as you say, they've scoured web databases and all of our social media and these kinds of things to get
Yeah.
these images. But there's really no check on the quality of their information. Surely that's also a concern in terms of the police using them. If someone grabs a photo of Adam and says, "Right, here's Adam. He's also the Unabomber," to throw a very old reference in
Uh,
there.
I keep
Um,
getting mistaken
surely,
for Brad Pitt. Happens all the time.
uh,
that one's obvious, Adam. That one's obvious. But my
so
point
what you're
is
saying is
that
that
kind of
Brad
false
Pitt
arrest
keeps
record
getting
bullshit.
arrested for the crimes Adam commits.
Poor bastard.
I think he's doing okay for himself, guys. I think he's doing himself okay. But yeah, this issue of false positives and so on, we've got no assurity that these services are even serving up decent data, do we?
Well, no. I mean, who are they? It's a company in Georgia. Now, I don't wish to denigrate the people of the Great Republic of Georgia, because, I mean, they did invent wine. But, I mean, it was a while back now. They may have had fewer such big hits since. Um, but yeah, is it right? Is any of it right? We already know from really well-run trials in Western countries that, surprise, surprise, this stuff is less accurate with people with darker skin colors than it is for all the white folks. So it is more likely to generate a false positive for a black, or brown, or yellow person, to you put it bluntly, than it is for a white person. Now that's already a bit wrong, but it's
It's a
there
lot
in the
wrong. I mean,
system.
let's not mince words here. It's a
Eh,
lot wrong.
eh. By the way, did you see some photos of the other day? Some American police force um, had arrested some white folks for some crimes, and all the photos came out overexposed. It's almost as if their default setting for their mugshot cameras assume you're black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't think
Uh,
why that would be.
yeah.
So
So yeah, it's all these things. How do we know the data is right? And at least if it's a database generated by, say, the Australian government's facial recognition system, which, that's the photo they took when you got your driver license or your passport or whatever, at least that's a far more reliable process than some bloke in Central Asia you've never heard of.
it's not just the police, though, is it? This keeps coming up with retailers as well. Is the genie sort of out of the bottle in Australia?
I mean, to put it back in is going to take some effort, because I know you've covered this. It's the people like some of the big chains of stores having face recognition to identify someone who they reckon was shoplifting 6 months ago. Pubs have been doing this for ages. Um, there was one being run for a while there, which was oh yeah, this is a person who's thrown out of a pub here, and therefore any pub subscribed to that database, will know not to let that person in. And at one point, one of those companies was being run by a cutout of one of the outlaw motorcycle gangs. So
Can't see
obviously,
any problem
that
with that.
no problem with that at all. Thank you, Brian. You may scan my ID card. Um, yeah, look, it's there. Or even if it's not a shared database, on my MacBook Pro, it is pulling out, it will at least work out which faces in all the photos are the same as other faces. So all that's happening on my computer. It's not like Apple is
Hmm.
creating a big facial database. They're very explicitly not doing that, brackets, assuming they are telling the truth, and I have no reason to suspect they're not. Um, Thank you, Your Honour. Um, but it's all there. I wrote a piece for CSO some years ago where a former head of the Australian Federal Police was positing that the age of the undercover cop is dead. And even so, then, this is about 10 years ago, they were already then having people from said outlaw motorcycle gangs turning up to the police graduation ceremonies and just taking everyone's photo.
Smart.
Very smart.
So for the solution then would be for the police to invest in those like plastic Groucho Marx noses and mustaches.
Oh, or a quantity of that makeup like David Bowie wore in his Ziggy Stardust era with the lightning burst across the
Yes, you're not going to
face. That
suspect
Dazzle
anybody
tech
like that.
camouflage. That's going to work. Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
They'll never suspect a thing.
Oh dear. Yeah, this is really going to be a difficult problem, especially now you combine it with the kind of AI stuff which will identify faces in different contexts much more easily than they can now, or even generate fake videos of someone else. I want to steal from Alex's bank account, and it's got Face ID or something. Well, I can put his face on my head. Good God. Um,
You pay
That
extra
is
for
that
that.
is both terrifying and quite worrying because entirely coincidentally, today I have had my credit card cancelled because someone tried to impersonate me. So,
Sorry, man.
there you go.
so
And
Skulgarian, you're now suspect number one. Why'd you do
excellent.
it, man? Why'd you do it?
Well, we already have had a bank, a company lose $35 million, or was it even 38? Certainly more than $35 million because they had managed to clone the CEO's voice patterns using tools that are available on the net, and make all the relevant calls to the relevant people in his company to transfer out the $35 million. And Microsoft has a tool called Val-E, which they will not be releasing to the public because they have compiled a massive database of people's voices and how people speak, so that now they need just 3 or 4 seconds of someone's voice to be able to reconstruct the rest of their voice patterns, because they know that you, Adam, say the word frog in a certain way, and people who say frog in that way will also say other words in the other related way. Off we go.
That's just mad. Like, because you already have the
Yeah.
problem with business email compromise scams where they break into a business's email servers and then someone pretends to be the boss and emails the finance person and says, "Quick, send all this money to this
Yeah,
account
yeah, yeah.
now." But if you get it as a phone call, you're more likely to believe it. So it's the same. It's business
Oh,
voice
mate, you can make it
compromise
as a you
scam. I don't
can
know what
make
you
it
call it.
you can make it as a video call as well.
Yeah,
I'd just like
It's
to say at
there.
this point that I have always loved Microsoft Windows and its products are the best.
frog.
It's
I
interesting you should say that, Alex, because last week on my podcast, the 9 p.m. Edict, I spoke with Toby Walsh, who's head of the AI Institute at the University of New South Wales, and he a fun conversation. But he now suggests that the time has come for your family to agree amongst yourselves effectively what your safe word is, your proof word, to prove it really is you and not someone, an artificial you, trying to tell you, "Mom, I'm stuck at the bus stop. Was stuck on my holidays. Send money," all of that. He says you need to start getting that together now. Although, as I thought, yeah, but if we've got our little personal AIs soon that know us and our family really well, they're going to be they're going to be able to guess
Yeah,
what the
so have
word is.
basically have the discussion out in the garden with your phones in the house so that
And
nothing can hear you except the
un,
kookaburras.
under a bridge so the satellites can't see you.
true. The artist formerly known as Twitter, run by the artist still currently known as Elon, keeps going through interesting ideas. And the new one is that they want to charge people $1 a year. Still, why would someone potentially want to pay Elon Musk $1 a year?
Well, why would anyone want to pay it, or why would he want you to pay it? They're slightly different
Two
questions.
different questions, yes.
Okay, Elon Musk is unhappy. Well, this is his public reason. He's unhappy with the bots, which is the bad thing. And of course, bot now just means anything he thinks is bad. Uh, and the idea is that if someone is paying $1, that just means there's a credit card transaction somewhere. Money's changed hands. That means it it will suddenly mean bots won't happen. Now, you can probably tell by my tone of voice already. Yeah, this isn't going to work because uh, there are stolen credit cards, mate. There are stolen bank transfers, and I think we just need to look at the fact that sending an SMS costs money has completely eliminated SMS spam.
Oh, for sure. I don't
So,
get any anymore, especially not from
Yeah,
politicians.
yeah.
S well, they're exempt, Adam, we've covered that before. So to take the devil's advocate position on this, the way they've implemented it is that it doesn't apply if you're using the mobile app, it's only if you're using a web browser, and the argument there and for the moment, it's only the Philippines and New Zealand,
Hmm.
because they're trialing it. I think it's the first time since Musk took over that they've actually gone, "Hey, why don't we trial these ideas rather than just spraying them out to the public?" But that's possibly a discussion for a little later. But the idea is that you then can't script to create thousands of these things because you've got to do the verification. I agree with you. It's not necessarily going to stop them, but doesn't that suggest it might at least slow them down?
Sure, it will do something, and as you say, if it's not through the app but through the API or somewhere else, and as soon as you start seeing multiple accounts coming in on the same credit card number, you start to suspect that something's wrong. There is a counter argument which suggests there's lots of ways of dealing with this sort of thing, which other organisations use that he might choose to try first.
But those other
Um,
organizations didn't fire all the developers and the safety team still. I
that's
mean, there
right.
is that issue that he's got to contend with.
There is, and other organisations have CEOs and CTOs who accept that other people might have valid points of view and knowledge and skills as well. Uh, I think this is much more about getting you used to the idea of giving money to Twitter X, to Musk anyway. His long term plan is for X to become the everything app, which will include shopping and payments and presumably matchmaking and maps and navigation. He wants it to be everything, like the WeChats in China and the Weibos in China, which are everything apps.
Hmm.
On the other hand, the market and the nature of capitalism in China is, shall we say, not the same as in the United States.
Just a tad.
We don't need to go into the details why there. It just is different. So this dollar idea. Look, he's had an idea. He wants to trial it. At least with payment systems, you can't just go boom. There's a global payment system. You do actually have to do stuff country by country, and you do have to do some compliance things. So it's a start. Uh, why Indonesia? Why Indonesia? Why New Zealand and the Philippines is first? Who knows? Um, oh, actually, New Zealand I can get because that's where he's one of the Silicon Valley billionaires who wants to have an escape plan for New Zealand when civilization collapses, because that's where you buy your land to escape to.
Oh, good to know, actually. I was gonna buy
Yeah,
land somewhere
client
else.
catastrophe stuff.
Stupid me was gonna buy
Adam,
land
you're obviously
where I live.
financially doing much better than I am, and I think that Bulgarian is too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, it's just
Yeah,
me. Oh, okay.
I mean, but
yeah,
apparently it's easy to make money out of Elon, though. I mean, he said he'll give Wikipedia $1 billion. And they've only gotta do
yeah.
one thing, don't they still?
They've only got to
Sh-
change one letter.
Yeah.
It's a
One
bargain. It's the
letter.
most expensive letter ever.
It's the big D, folks. He wants Wikipedia to change its name to Dickipedia, and he will give them $1 billion. And I'm thrilled to report that he's referred to this as a stiff and firm offer. because he's an adult,
Yes. I did
He's
see a
something.
great
He's
comment
something.
online. Someone said that it's another example of rich people wanting to name things after themselves.
Wikipedia. I do like look. Elon Musk has had a thing about, and not a good thing, about Jimmy Wales, who founded and still chairs Wikipedia. Musk calls Wikipedia Wokipedia because it won't. Uh,
Ba-dum.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like he's the world's greatest comedian, right? Um, the latest part of that is, of course, we have a situation between Israel and Hamas at the moment. You might have heard about that in the news, and it turns out that Musk's little platform there is chock full of misinformation, and he's repeating the misinformation. And he's got the Russian trolls calling him Comrade Elon, and it's all absolutely typical stuff that we've seen over the last few years with disinformation on Twitter, except Musk no longer cares about disinformation because he takes sides. Jimmy Wales said that it's really hard to get good information on Twitter these days because you can't tell, look, who's a journalist and who isn't. Because it used to be there was a manual process to say, oh, those are the journalists, those are the news outlets, blah blah blah, whatever.
Hmm.
Now it's just anyone who can plonk down the $8. And if Musk doesn't like them, even when they are a legitimate news outlet, for example, the New York Times, you may have heard of it. He took exception to the New York Times reporting on his misinformation and other bits and pieces. So he took away the verified badge from the New York Times.
It's
It's
good that
fake
they've got
news.
due process, isn't it? It's good that they've got
Yeah.
rules and frameworks, and one lunatic and the madman at the top can't just make it up as he goes.
Oh, look, he's an attention-seeking dickhead with a history of claiming credit for other people's work, and people who've worked for him. The impression I get, at least anyway, from reading the reports from biographers and so on, have worked with him recently. He just constantly makes these arbitrary decisions based on whatever neurons fire in his head that moment,
Yes.
and without any real joined up thinking. So how do you stop bots? You make people pay. We already have that. We already have people having to pay $8 a month to have their stuff boosted. People are happy to do that, right? It doesn't have to be multiple accounts and flooding it. You just need a few dozen. Make sure that they're paying their $8 so that they go to the top of the algorithm, and message Elon personally. Just reply to Elon in the hope that he sees it, and he just needs to retweet, repost, whatever we call them these days.
Rex. Excrete. Whatever.
Rex to Rex greet them. Um, he just does a few of them, but because he's got 11 bazillion followers, that suddenly puts those tweets right up the top of the algorithm. And
It strikes me though that some of those followers, and it's just possible, could be bots themselves. Just maybe, but it also feels to me like this is a barrier that maybe cuts out your low level, Nigerian scam money people, maybe, but
no,
potentially
because they've
still
got all
just
the
enables.
stolen credit
Yes.
cards.
It's like,
Okay,
which credit
I did
card
say
should I
maybe.
use
I did say
today?
maybe. I did say maybe. Let me finish this.
Okay, sorry.
But does nothing for the misinformation that you were kind of alluding to before in terms of larger scale political events, because that just becomes part of your PR budget, doesn't it?
Sure, absolutely. Just look at what's happening between Russia and Ukraine. That's now what, 18 months or so. 600 days, I think I saw the other day. So it's more
Mm.
than that, isn't it? Um, these are professional operations, and there are professional operations being run, say, for example, from the Russian side, by professional, well resourced, well funded disinformation organizations versus whatever brain farts come out of Elon Musk when he isn't doing spliffs and building a really ugly ute.
That's his bio right there.
Well, that just about wraps up this week's episode of Vertical Hold. Thanks to Stilgarian for joining us this week.
My pleasure, gentlemen.
And Stilgarian, we no longer do the three questions of doom, but you
Thank
do still get
God.
this time to promote whatever you like, wherever you're working, a story you've read recently you like, or in fact, knowing you, a quick discussion on which Blue Mountains bird is the best.
Well, all right, we'll do the where to get my stuff there. Still, Gary, and just look for it. Look for the podcast, the 9 p.m. Edict. That's easier to spell. As I say, the last episode was with Professor Toby Walsh all about AI. Really fun discussion. We solved many of the world's problems and pointed out a few more. I'm not going to go a bird in the Blue Mountains, even though I do talk about birds quite a lot and post bird pictures with my magnificent magpie army who wake me every morning. I just want to praise the quoll, the little critter that in colonial days was called the native cat, but it is, of course, a marsupial because this is Australia. It's about the size of a cat. They're a lovely critter. Look them up. There are three species. The eastern quoll is being reintroduced from Tasmania into the mainland. There's some great projects there for you to support. So if you want to make a quality contribution to the ecology of Australia, yes, I know, shake your head, gentlemen, that was really bad. Please do so.
I'm only shaking my head, I hope you understand, because you beat me to it. I was going to run with that particular line myself. So now my conscience is clear. It's wonderful.
Oh, good.
Um,
Good.
and as always, you can catch us at the Vertical Hold webpage on Facebook, on Instagram. You can look up Adam or myself on Mastodon, Blue Sky, or Threads, and that thing that Elon's probably going to kick us off any day now, which I'm just still going to keep calling Twitter anyway.
Thanks everyone for dropping by and drop us a line. Let us know what you think about Twitter's latest crazy plans. Let us know what you think about the Fed using facial recognition. Let us know what you think about quals.